What's happening, pimpin'? Welcome back to On The Reel. Now, sorry for all the delays. I meant for this video to go up before Easter, but for reasons out of my control, I could not make it. However, here we are, finally, for the review of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Zack Snyder. Man, he's had some excellent comic book adaptations before, like Watchmen and 300. But he's not known for his storytelling work, and sadly it really shows in this movie. Snyder's strengths will always be directing action and visual storytelling, and he does that here very well. However, the story and editing in this movie makes it very hard to find a through line and leaves you feeling like there was a lot cut out of the theatrical cut we saw in theaters. In fact, knowing that there will be a 3-hour rated R director's cut coming July 16th, coupled with the fact that Warner Brothers themselves are starting to release deleted scenes from this movie, it shows that they have no faith in the editing on this movie, which was completely cracked out. I mean, it was just a confusing mess of ideas and scenes with little care for things like lasting effect or even proper transitions from scene to scene. However, to Snyder's credit, a lot of interesting ideas were introduced but given no time to shine. So here's a few of them because I got love for y'all like that. Number 1, Flashpoint. What looks like a dream sequence in the movie where the Flash travels through time using the Speed Force to warn Batman about Superman. Number 2, The Dark Knight Returns, the epic 4-part Frank Miller story where a weary and old Batman fights Superman. Number 3, The Death of Superman, coming from the legendary 1992 DC comic where Doomsday and Superman fight to the death. Okay, let's talk acting. Ben Affleck as Batman, easily one of the best things in this movie. His billionaire pimp game is on point, and the physicality and presence needed as Batman, he's got that on lock too. Although there are major changes to the character, like the detective aspect and the no-killing policy are gone, baby. It's a radical departure from the comics, but every moment Batman was on screen was a highlight of this movie. A lot of people's doubts and salt initially thrown at him has been brushed off his shoulder, and he walks away as perhaps the saving grace of this movie. Henry Cavill is still as proper a fit for Superman as ever. He didn't resonate with me not so much due to his performance, but due to the story and motivations behind it. But Cavill still delivers a good performance, especially as Clark Kent viewed through his relationship with Lois Lane, his mother, and the rest of humanity. As far as Gal Gadot, she was barely in this movie as Wonder Woman, but she was indeed sensual and manipulative when needed, and she was wrecking shop when it was about that time. So she was solid overall, which is pretty much the case for everyone involved here, including the supporting cast like Lawrence Fishburne and Amy Adams. Except for one, and I'll say this before anything else, I admire his commitment, but goddamn Jesse Eisenberg as Alexander Luthor? Fuck out of here. This was the worst casting decision of the DCU. This guy is not the Lex Luthor this movie deserves. What we've got here is a bootleg version of the Joker mixed with a heroin fiend's impression of Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network. And as a fan of the pinnacle of humanity that is Lex Luthor from the Superman animated series, I was left with utter disappointment at this version of him. Now, it's been pointed out that he's never named Lex Luthor but Alexander Luthor in the movie, implying that it might be Lex's son. Still, what we've got here is a major letdown in a key area where the DCU needs to step its game up. This movie's biggest flaw is the story. The inclusion of so many elements hurts this film, as none of them are given a chance to get fleshed out. What we get here are multiple storylines in one movie, which was itself cut down for time. I mean, we have enough material here for at least 4 different excellent movies. The first act gives us great insights on what should have been Man of Steel 2 by showing the geopolitical conflict arising from Superman living amongst humans, as well as his relationship with Lois. Second, we have an interesting Batman movie showing the gradual decline of Gotham City, as well as the exploration of the Under the Red Hood storyline, which was hinted at in this movie. Third, we would actually have a movie about Batman versus Superman, and we do get some snippets of that here, but it was mostly ruined by the last trailer put out. And lastly, a Justice League movie where the whole crew teams up to stop the seemingly invincible Doomsday. And how easy was that? That's exactly how easy it should have been. But fuck common sense, right? This movie decides to have all of that in one freaking film. And this results in a bunch of convoluted plot points, messy editing, and everything spreads from there to infect otherwise great aspects of this film. And to be frank, I would have preferred that they break this movie down in multiple different parts and have an opportunity to flesh out all the great ideas touched on by this film. There are so many monumental stories that the DCU can draw from, but they were completely wasted here. On the visual tip, it's amazing. I mean, it's Zack Snyder. You know walking in that you'll be getting action and visuals that are just boss. The action scenes are breathtaking and kinetic and exhilarating. Now, two scenes stood out to me in particular. There's the obligatory scene of Martha and Thomas Wayne's death, and the very last shot of the movie, controversial as it may be. Now, in the first sequence, Martha's pearls get jammed in the pistol while firing. Pair that with a rear slow motion shot of Martha obscuring both pistol and muzzle flash, and what you get is a symbolic burst of pearls to signify the death of something pure and precious, Bruce's mother. The last sequence, spoilers, shows a simple yet elegant visual used in both Man of Steel and this movie, the rocks levitating around Superman. We've seen it before during Soup's flight training sequence in Man of Steel, and in this movie at the very end, spoilers, to show he is still alive. Now, I might not agree with the use of the shot, but the visual itself is surprising as it has no equivalent or even origin in Western cinema. This is an Eastern animation trope. Specifically, a Dragon Ball Z trick to emphasize the effect of a character's inner power on his surroundings. It's very subtle but yet powerful visual storytelling. I do have some beef with the CGI in this movie. First off, Doomsday looks straight up stupid. Many people have compared him to a Michael Bay Ninja Turtle on crack, and I agree. And some of the 3D character modeling slipped up a bit in scenes of heavy action, but it wasn't too bad. But since we're nitpicking, I had no choice but to see this movie in 3D, and I wish movie theaters would stop doing that. That's still a dick move. All in all, however, the visual department held up its end very well. Several sequences in this movie are what hardcore fans have been waiting and dying to see, and most of them deliver extremely well. And honestly, that is what saved this movie from getting a pimp hand. Which brings me to the rating, and it's aight. I mean, this might just be my longest video to date, and I've said a bunch of shit in this review. However, I still have to give this movie an average review, and it breaks my heart to say it. Especially because of all the things that I found intriguing, smart, surprising, or even all of the above. There are parts of this movie that are excellent. I mean, the Batman kidnapper beatdown, that was ripped right out of the Arkham games, and that was beautiful to see. But then there are parts that are atrocious, like the lazy Dawn of Justice tie-in. And the stupid corporate-minded decisions to overstuff this movie is what ultimately shot it down from greatness. And it's also the thing that shall not be referred to as Luther. Now, for all these reasons, I have to give Batman vs Superman an I review. So, Pimpin', what'd you think about the movie? Was I too harsh on it? Not harsh enough? Anything you disagree with? Hit me up in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit all them buttons down below while you're at it. This has been RawBlack for a real raw review, and I'm out.